All right, guys, here we are, ATXRC Addicts. Checking out Ike. We are doing show number 2. We're going to continue with the multi-rotor talk. Here in Texas, it's cold and rainy, and I've been sick for the last 3 days with the flu. Feeling a little better, so been wanting to get this quick review done. Got my coffee right here, stay warm. Multi-rotor mania. Thanks, Jeremy. Found a place for that last sticker, buddy. All right, let's try to knock this out, guys. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to have some pictures pop up to go ahead and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about when I start talking about some sizes and some differences in these motors. But what we're talking about today is going to be the Air Gear 350 setup. This 350 setup I got for my TBS Disco. If you followed me in the past or you've seen any of the other previous build stuff, what you have sitting before you was an F450 RTF that I bought, or ARTF kit that I bought with a NASA V2 GPS unit. I got it from Go Nitro Hobbies back in October, I think. Built it, put it together, enjoyed it, and then quickly found out that I had basically not enough room for what I wanted to do with it, which was a lot of FPV or an FPV style hero setup, as well as the gimbal and all that good stuff in the FPV setup. So what I did was did some research, found out TBS Discovery, Team Black Sheep. That's the way to go. You want to do FPV work, you want to get something that performs really well in the F450 size, well, can't beat the TBS Disco. So took the chassis apart, moved all my electronics over to the chassis, put the arms on, the DJI E300 setup on, bought some DJI 9450 props. Anybody that knows 9450s are the way to go, to be quite honest. Much more rigid than, well, not much, but slightly more rigid than the 9443s. They have a bigger pitch to them, just slightly, maybe a 5-degree pitch difference. But that 5-degree pitch and that added rigidity to the prop is what gives it 100 grams more thrust, and also gives it, in my opinion, I think it's a little more stable. Some people will argue that it's a bumpier. Me, I say it's stable. It's more stable because it doesn't typically have a little bit of that kind of wobble to it, that it likes to float to it. It's like the magic carpet ride is what I like to call it. Anyways, so Ike, if you don't know already, he comes in just under 4 pounds. He's a fat boy. Got lots of stuff on him. That 4-pound weight, or just under 4-pound weight, is fully loaded, ready to go with a 4.5 amp 4S Turnigy Nanotech 3570. Now, quick backstory. I've got a Flytrex unit. It's a Core 2. It's not a live unit. I'm still waiting on a quick email from a MIT. No problem. Whenever I do, I'm going to get a live Flytrex unit. I'm going to do a little comparison. I'm going to use it. This one's going to maybe go into something else. And we'll talk about that at a later date. But the reason I talk about my Flytrex unit is I do have some, not a lot, but I have 3 or 4 flights worth of data that I am using to compare against my T-motor data. Now, the problem with comparing data like this is every day is not the same. Winds are different. I don't know what the winds are way up there in the air anyways. Nobody really does. And there's just a lot of factors, you know, temperature and stuff like that. How you fly, I mean, you can't fly the same way twice, blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you what, guys, I'm sorry, but no, I didn't go out there and just let both of them hover for 15 to 20 minutes to see what they were. That's just not me. I can't do that. What I can do is try to fly as much as possible the same way both times and pick a decent day and, you know, whatever. But at the most point, or at the end of the day, it all comes down to using my common sense and my logic to say, you know what, I can kind of, you know, smudge the line and decide, you know, what the difference is, how they affected what. So that being said, the most data I have on the E300s was on a day that was decently windy, about 60, 70 degrees, and I flew moderately. When I say moderate, I mean I didn't do a lot of punch outs. I didn't do a lot of high-speed runs, full tilt. I stayed in GPS. I just flew around, took some videos, some pictures, came down, came up, blah, blah, blah. That being said, my max speed with the E300s, which was not very fast, was 58 kilometers an hour. And that was, again, in GPS mode, guys. Blah, blah, blah. So, flight times on that Nanotech 4500 3570C 4S on the D300s was 9 to 13 minutes. 13 minutes was really difficult to achieve. That was a lot of hovering, very little flight, all GPS still, obviously, and was on a day that wasn't very windy. 9 minutes was not an average, but about 10.5 minutes was. 9 minutes was aggressive flying, just the bottom of the barrel. I'm happy with that. No problems whatsoever. Talking about the Air 350 setup, let's stick with the motors first. So on these motors, you'll notice that the T motor is taller, and when you look at it from top down, it appears that the Tiger motor is actually skinnier. Well, when the pictures pop up, you'll actually see that they're not. The T motor is taller, but the DJI motor and the T motor are the same width. The T motor has a taper at the top and the bottom of the can that kind of curves like a barrel. So the middle is definitely fatter than the outside, or the top. They're about the same. However, once you open it up, you will notice there is 2 less poles on the T motor than there is on the DJI motor. Now, what do poles do? Poles really have a lot to do with smoothness of power delivery. People will tell you it also has to do with efficiency, but efficiency has a lot more factors than just the number of poles. So I personally don't consider poles to be an efficiency factor. What I do consider an efficiency factor is poles plus the quality of the windings, plus the size of the magnets and the rotor and the stator and all the other parts, as well as the balancing and the overall just performance. One thing I will tell you is this is a 2213 T motor, 920 kV. It's replacing a 2212 920 kV. Now, people will tell you, why would you go from a 920 to a 920 or 12 to a 2213? Why would you not go to a 700 or an 800 or 1,000 kilovolts? Well, I'm from the ground game, and for some reason, I find that the air guys typically have an idea that 2 motors, 9220 or 920 kV, are going to always be the same. They're not, guys. We learned this in crawling quite a bit, or in bashing even. Many motors that are the same kilovolts have many differences. Stator size, rotor size, magnet size, windings, quality of windings, blah, blah, blah. Bearings, there's a lot. So it's not just about the numbers. That being said, upon just turning the motor by hand, the Tiger motor just feels better. It's stiffer. It feels like I don't know how to explain it. It feels right. The DJI doesn't feel bad. I'm not saying you can turn a motor and feel how it feels or know how it feels, and that tells you the quality. I'm just saying that there's definitely a difference. Then you open them up and you see the pictures soon, and they're the same diameter internally as far as the magnets and the rotors. The height of the magnets in the rotor is taller in the T motor. And like I said, it's got less poles, but the windings are better and much bigger. All of that basically should translate into more power. Efficiency, I can't tell you, and I apologize, but DJI doesn't provide any numbers. Hard to find any real numbers on these, including thrust, which makes it difficult to compare the motors. So you're just going to get my basic, hey, this is what I think about them. Before we go there, let's talk about ESC real quick. ESC E300, it's got a bigger ESC. The air gear is a 600 hertz. It is a 20 amp, and it can handle 3 to 4S. It does not have a BEC either, which is great. It's one of the reasons why it's much smaller, which makes it good for a DJI setup, because DJI setups usually don't need BECs. So the size, you're losing some weight. The E300s, I feel like would warm up quite a bit not hot, but they would definitely warm up on high-speed runs and very aggressive flights. On the air gears, I find that they don't warm up not nearly as much. Actually, not at all. I haven't felt them get warm at all in 3 or 4 flights. As far as the caps, I don't know 100%, but yes, it does seem like there's only one cap in there. It does seem like it's a larger capacitor, though. So, I don't know what to tell you. All I know is, looks cooler, much smaller, and it doesn't warm up, and I haven't had problems with it. So, that's that. Props. Pretty cool here. The T-motor comes with its own prop. It's called a T9545, which means it's 9.5 by 4.5. Compared to what I was running, DJI 9450s, Power Hobbies on eBay, guys. You get 8 of them for $25. Don't listen to people. These are the exact same props as DJI. They're from the same factory. Yes, they say XOXO, but I've run them and many people have run them. They are not the knockoff props that you get, the carbon fiber ones or the other ones that are self-tightening. These are the exact same prop. It's a more rigid prop, bottom line. And it's got a slightly bigger pitch. It has the same pitch essentially and is almost the exact same blade size as the T-motor prop. The difference is the T-motor has a self-tightening nut, and that self-tightening nut is removable. You can remove it and put it on another prop. You could remove it or use the 2-screw style method of attaching the prop as well to the T-motor, or the T-motor style. It's pretty cool. That being said, you can't use DJI props on the T-motors. Sorry, I wish I could. I had a ton of them. I'm selling them actually with my E300 setup. You got to find some 9545s if you want replacements. Those are difficult to find, but I'm getting some hopefully from Paul Downing over at Autobotix.Ca in Canada. He's going to hook it up. He's going to order me some, I hope, and I'll get them. I tried getting some from our good friends in China. I had some on order. They emailed me shortly after and said they were no-go. They were not coming. So, self-tightening just like the DJI prop. Boom, they're done, they're on. Obviously, you want to tighten them a little bit more. The blade itself is the same rigidness I feel. Like, I can't tell you for sure, but they feel the same amount of rigidity. Size and shape, darn near the same. Like I said, I think it's a 1/10 of an inch wider on the T-motor because it's a 9.5, not a 9.4. Besides that, it's a cool prop. So, here we go. The flight characteristics are amazing. First of all, when you start these motors up, they sound great. They sound better than the DJIs, just in the sense of they just have a cool sound, and they're quiet. Oh my goodness. I didn't notice how quiet because I was so concentrated on how cool they sounded, but a buddy of mine, when we were flying together, and he has an E300, and he has heard my E300, heard mine start up and take off while he wasn't looking, and he kind of got startled because he turned around and was like, wait, was that you? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, wow, that thing is super quiet. It's the motors. The motors just sound so much more quiet. Power. They have more power. A good amount of more power. What's a good amount? It's not double, and it's not 50%. Maybe it's 25 or 30%. Maybe it's 15. I don't know. What I can tell you is I felt like I was on the struggling end of these 300s. Like, I felt like at times, if I had an issue or if I maybe miscalculated, that I wouldn't have the power to get out of what I was in. Not here. These things are great. High-speed banking, full tilt. Just takes the corners. It's great. The E300s, it could do it. But it would have this like, whoa, like quick little like, oh my gosh, and then it would correct itself. Punching out, yeah, not much of a difference. But that first little bit of the punch out is where you're going to see it gets up and goes, and then it's about the same. Um, Again, efficiency, I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is my flight times were the same. I flew harder. It was a colder day. And I got 5 miles an hour more out, or 5 kilometers an hour more out of it. And it was less wind that day. So I don't know what to tell you. I'll get more definitive data on it. But I can tell you that just by flying it and the feel of it, which is what I actually consider better than numbers, because numbers are just numbers on paper. It's a recommendation to try this, guys. Not try it, but do it. You can't beat the price. $135 for motors, props, ESCs. $40 for props alone. You're looking at $90 then for the motors and ESCs. So try it. I mean, the 920, don't worry about it. You want the same RPMs. If you're sticking with the same prop size and you just want more power, you just need a better 920 motor. The argument of efficiency, I can't argue with, because nobody can show me efficiency numbers on the DJI. What I can show you is efficiency numbers on this, and I can show you that my flight times didn't change. All right, guys, I wanted to add something really quick about the efficiency factor, or what I think about the efficiency as far as my experience with these. One more interesting point that I found about my battery usage is the last 30% of my pack. 30 to 40% of my pack at the end. I don't know about you guys, but in any pack, even in my ground RCs, that last 30, 40%, it goes a lot quicker than the first 60%. The reason is the cells are, losing their power and blah, blah, blah. Cells become less efficient and all that, right? Well, one of the things was the E300 was I would get to the last 3 to 4 tenths of a volt on my voltage warnings before I hit them. And that 3 tenths to 4 tenths of a volt would disappear in 2 to 3 minutes usually, depending on flight characteristics. Sometimes even faster if I was flying really hard, really fast. Well, this is one thing that kind of scared me. Different people do different voltage regulations and use voltage alarms and the NASA, or don't use the NASA. A lot of people say don't use the NASA because it'll land itself and all these things. Again, being that I have a decent amount of experience with lipos in the ground game and all this, I know that I can get a cell down to 3.4, and that's okay. It's not ideal, but it's okay. I can get a cell technically down to 3.2, but that's definitely the lowest I ever want to go, and I really am straining the pack. So I don't want to hit 3.2, but I do want to hit 3.4, and I'm trying to maximize flight time. So 3.6, I'm okay with landing there, and I prefer to land there, but I want from 3.8 to 3.2 as a good window of 3.2 is land yourself now because you're about to burst into flames. So 3.2, 4 cells, 12.8. Wait. Yes. That being said, I don't set mine at 12.8. What I do set mine at is I set it at 14 volts on the first LVC, and I set it at 13.4 or 13.6. Currently, I have it set 13.4. And that's because I really am very religious. Again, I don't fly a mile away. If I eventually do, I'm going to still be watching my OSD very religiously. So one of the things I noticed with this was my first level of protection is set at 14 volts. I ideally land typically as soon as that voltage hits that, because again, I'm watching my OSD, and so I'm already on my way back when it typically hits the 14 volts. And really, I'm right around like 14.2. I kind of dip around where I'm at if I want to, or I just land and I'm over, right? Well, you also have the kind of like regeneration of the cell that occurs because you have so much load on it. Now, I know this is considered loss in the NASA setup. However, my packs, when I land, they're actually right on the money. What I mean by that is, though the voltage may say, hey, you're at 14 and the light flashes, once I land and the voltage on the OSD does regenerate a little bit, that voltage that's on the OSD is always what my nanotechs read. I check them religiously after a flight. That being said, I just choose not to use the loss portion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It works for me. So I set my high end at 14, my low end at 13.6. And what occurs is I'm watching my OSD. When I get to 14.3, I start checking because, like I said prior, I get 2 minutes or so out of that. Well, my first flight, I noticed at 14.3, I was 200 meters away. I came back expecting it to be, hey, let's land. Well, it wasn't. When I got back, it was actually at 14.2. And then I dipped around and hovered, and I looked back down, and it was back at 14.3. So I just hovered around and zipped around. I didn't do too fast, but I kind of, did some stuff. And I'm watching the OSD, expecting it to continue to drop and drop and drop. It took forever to hit 14 volts. In fact, I landed 3.5 minutes later, and I was still at 14.1. And then once I landed, it regenerated up to 14.3. So bottom line, with the E300s, I was getting about 1/10 of a volt regeneration. Well, 1/10 to 3/10 at times. But when I hit 14.3, I had better have been on my way back, because at 14, it was going to hit very soon. So I don't know what that says to you, but to me, getting the extra 1.5 to 2 minutes out of the last 30% of the pack is huge. So huge that I think, and I will let you guys know, that I could easily get 14 to 15 minutes out of this setup if I set it up the right way, I fly it efficiently, and in decent weather. I don't know. I'll let you guys know. But that was a little tidbit I figured I had to add to you guys. Again, I know that my NASA settings may not work for everybody. I know people like voltage alarms. I don't. I just don't trust it. I don't trust that I'm going to hear it. I trust my eyes, and I trust my feelings and my timers on my radio. So I'm just OCD about that. Maybe later I'll get a little more willy-nilly and free saving. But that's anyways, we're going to get out of here, guys. I just wanted to really go over this with you. $135, Air Gear 350, the best money I could spend. You guys need an E300 setup. It's not that used. It's got about 10 to 12 packs through it. I've got 17 props for it, including 9 or 10 9550s, 2 full sets that are damn near new. Let me know. I'm going to sell them. Keep the T-motors because they're gangster, guys. They are gangster. ATXRC Addicts, show number 2. We're going to do some more real soon. Watch out for the next build. It's the ZMR build reboot. We're going to redo the ZMR because we have Autobotix.Ca is going to actually sponsor this build. You'll see more about it coming soon, maybe later this week. I'll get a box and we'll open it up. Until then, guys, fly high, fly straight, fly safe, bash hard, bash right, drive smart, buy safe, sell safe, buy smart, sell smart. Don't do any trading. I don't. That's just me. But most importantly, have fun, take care of your family, and share the love, guys. Share the RC love.